I'm Jennifer Chavez. I'm a staff attorney at Earthjustice. We're a nonprofit environmental law firm with a branch here in DC. Since long before I started with Earthjustice, our attorneys have been strongly committed to working with organizations that protect the Anacostia River and the Potomac River from water pollution. And I just want to echo some things that if I still have any vision after that, I'd like to just echo a few things that that Chris said about the sort of the history of our efforts to get better stormwater controls in the district. It was really only a few years ago that we were in front of the EPA's Environmental Appeals Board fighting just to get an enforceable requirement in the stormwater permit that the stormwater system meet water quality standards. And, we were at that sort of just baby level of trying to deal with stormwater. So the fact that we're now talking about such specifics and the fact that DDOE has shown such a strong commitment to not just sort of doing the bare minimum, but really aggressively controlling stormwater in the district is really very inspiring, and sort of feels like we're finally really seeing the results of some of our work. In some counties and municipalities, including just our neighbor to the north, Montgomery County, we're still fighting for some of those really basic fundamental requirements in their stormwater permits. So we can't, we just can't rest on our laurels. We can't forget that we're just, this close to, backward movement if we ever rest. So I encourage everyone to not just assume that this work is going to get done and that there's some sort of inertia behind it. We're fighting for everything we can get. Naturally, I think, our position is that any delay on this regulatory process is just completely unacceptable. Much like issues that we're all dealing with on a larger scale with climate change, if we don't deal with this problem now, we're just putting the burden on, not just the next generation. I mean, we're all pretty young, but, we're going to have to pay for it at one time or another. And if we don't ensure that the sources, the biggest sources of pollution are really required and sometimes incentivized to control their pollution themselves, then the rest of us have to pay through our tax dollars, and it's much, much more expensive to try to clean up a dirty river than it is to keep it clean. First, before I go on, I want to kind of cheat and lower your expectations. I mean, Diane Cameron was really an expert in stormwater, and she was originally supposed to be here, so I'm really quite a poor stand-in for Diane.
Oh.
And I'm going to be echoing a lot of what Becky said, which I hope, I'll try not to just regurgitate what she said, but I want to kind of, keep with this theme of, the long view, both looking back and looking forward. So these regulations fundamentally are about, changing business as usual. In the past, in particular, because we're in the urban setting, we're primarily talking about development, especially large-scale commercial development. Developers have been allowed to basically, put in, install and construct on their properties buildings without any regard for the stormwater consequences of that. And the goal of these requirements is to drive improvements in stormwater techniques and technology so that it's really more attractive to a developer, more financially attractive and more sort of politically attractive for them to control their stormwater on site than it is for them to try to avoid that. There are multiple benefits, and we're really trying to drive that. We have a lot of concerns about just the basic concept of trading and off-site compliance, but this program does have some promise, and so we think it's premature to be negative about it. But I think that I'd like to encourage DDOE to really think about the long term. Think at the beginning about how we're going to phase out the off-site compliance options, including in lieu fees and off-site compliance, so that basically we're driving to the point where every site in the district is either rebuilding in a sort of at the edge of technology, or retrofitting, so that no one is basically off the hook. I want to talk a little bit about what the consequences are if we fail, and this I think is really important, because this is what DDOE can go back to the business community with when the business community sort of balks at what's really sort of a new, seemingly new imposition on business development. EPA does have the authority to designate major stormwater sources as significant contributors to pollution and directly regulate them, require permits for individual sites or for individual categories of sites. And of course that's unpopular because it's sort of the command and control model. So if these regulations fail to accomplish what we really need to do, that's the alternative, and that's only again delaying the inevitable costs of cleaning up, and potentially risking an even more more burdensome and more draconian approach to stormwater regulation. So what the district is doing is really the best approach for everyone. I think I'll just leave it there and leave plenty of time for everyone to just kind of talk about the regulations.